And welcome everybody to another edition of Tobs Talk presented by Thomas and Ferris right here on Greenlight Channel 2. I'm Jake Donnelly. Thank you for tuning in to Tobs Talk. Well, the last time we spoke, the Tobs were 12-10, riding a two-game winning streak, but now the Tobs have lost back-to-back games after that day off on Sunday. They had one of their worst performances on the season against the Fayetteville Swamp Dogs. The first time they were shut out, losing 6-0. Really nothing good to speak about in that game, although Michael Belcher came out of the bullpen and pitched 3 innings of pretty good baseball. And then last night's game, really their worst performance of the season, their worst loss of the season. They lost 16-2, and to make matters worse, it was against the basement dwellers, the Morehead City Marlins, who coming into the game were 2-20. They now sit at 3-21. It looked like the Tobs were going to get off on the right foot, but they had the bases loaded with 2 outs, and Danny Rodriguez came up to the plate and was unable to get any runs across, actually striking out in that at-bat. And then in the bottom of the first inning, things started to unravel for the Tobs. Michael Wilson was the starter, and he was unable to get out of that first inning. He allowed 6 runs, just 1 earned. The big hit was a 2-run triple by Trent Limecooler, really blowing the game open early on. The Tobs did try to battle back. They had multiple runners on in the next 3 innings, but they were unable to get anybody home. And then later on in the game, another 6-run inning from the Morehead City Marlins, this time a grand slam off of the bat of Johnny Caputo, who had himself a night. Johnny Caputo took Ryan Mintier yard, a home run out to left field, driving in 4, and then later in the game, another home run off of Ryan Mintier, this time a 3-run shot. Johnny Caputo drove in 7 on the night, a multi-home run game for the right-handed batter for the Morehead City Marlins. So now the Tobs sit at 12-12 on the season. But tonight's game, a 7:05 start with gates opening at 6 o'clock. It's against the United States national team. It's going to be an exhibition game, and Braden Bristow will be on the mound, the youngster from Louisiana Tech University. I talked to Coach Justin Hay, who will be joining me in just a little bit here on Tobs Talk, and he mentioned how Bristow will go 1, 2, maybe even 3 innings, depending on how he feels. And we're going to hear a little bit more on how the Tobs are going to play that game tonight against the United States national team, because, of course, it is an exhibition game, and Tobs Coach Justin Hay wants to play just a little bit differently. There are some bright spots, though, for the Tobs during this little mini streak in which they've lost the last 2 games. Jonathan Waszak appeared in last night's game, and he threw 2 1/3 innings. And Waszak, for the 7th time in a row out of the bullpen, did not allow an earned run. He, too, will be joining me here on this edition of Tobs Talk. John Allen also had a very nice appearance out of the bullpen. He pitched 1 inning, retiring the side in order and picking up 2 strikeouts for the Tobs, so it wasn't all bad despite that 16-2 score against the Morehead City Marlins. Just the first time this season that the Tobs have lost against the Marlins in now 5 opportunities, and we'll see if the Tobs can get back on that winning streak as they have their game tonight against the United States national team, with the gates opening at 6 o'clock. First pitch scheduled for 7:05. When we come back here on Tobs Talk, we will have head coach of the Tobs, Justin Hay. All that and more on this edition of Tobs Talk presented by Thomas and Ferris right here on Greenlight Channel 2. And welcome back, everybody, to this edition of Tobs Talk. Tobs Talk is presented by Thomas and Ferris right here on Greenlight Channel 2. I'm Jake Donnelly, and joining me with right now is the head coach of the Tobs, Justin Hay. Justin is in a pretty good mood despite the back-to-back losses here with the Tobs sitting at 12-12. One of the reasons for that is Jonathan Waszak, who has been pitching really well as of late. What has he been doing differently out on the mound?
He's throwing a lot more strikes. He's got a lot more comfortable with his arm angle, and he's been able to repeat it very consistently. And that's due to some widening his feet out just a little bit, standing him up a little bit taller. He came in with the job to find his arm angle. That's what his coaches wanted him to do this summer. And he's worked on it. And the first couple outings, it was very inconsistent. He even came off the mound one day and said, "Coach, I've lost it. I don't know where it's at." But lately he's found it, and he's been throwing a lot more strikes. And when he's in the zone, he's got some very tough pitches to hit.
Now, you mentioned the fact that he came off of the mound one time and just said, "I lost it." What's the hardest part, or what do you do to try to build up that confidence for a guy who, when he comes off the mound, says something like that?
Well, you just remind him that, hey, you are going through a change, and this is something that we have to build. It's muscle memory. You're used to throwing from a different arm angle. So when you just forget about the mechanical side of it, like you have to when you step on the mound and pitch, your body's going to go back to what it knows. You can't step on the mound and think. So his body was taking him back to where he was comfortable, and that's what his body was fighting. He was like, hey, I'm not supposed to be throwing from this arm angle. So we took him to the bullpen, and we threw and threw, and just over time, his muscle memory now has relearned itself, I guess, and it's starting to be able to repeat it.
And he's been throwing exclusively from the stretch this summer. Is it going to be one of those things where going forward in the summer that you're going to maybe try to get him to the windup, or do you think he's going to stick with that just from the stretch?
That's a personal preference for him, and if he wants to throw out the windup, we'll work on it. But I think just we've put him in the stretch to simplify, because when you're searching for an arm angle, you want to make everything as simple as possible, and that's what we've done. So if he wants to venture into working on his windup, then we will. But he's got plenty of time to work on that going forward.
Now, you're a bigger guy yourself, and you were a pitcher in college, so you know exactly what those tall guys, those big guys are going through out there on the mound. Is it a little bit more difficult to try to build that muscle memory back up for the larger guys because there's so many things that are going on?
Well, I really think it's that much different. I mean, you've got a little more to deal with as far as can go wrong. You're not as compact, but I mean, muscle memory is muscle memory. Once you get used to your body and your size, then it's just something that you should be able to repeat.
And the bullpen has been pitching pretty much the entire summer, really, for the Tobs. And one of those guys who had a good outing last night was John Allen. Now, the prior two appearances for Allen didn't go the way that he wanted, but he went one inning last night, 1, 2, 3 in order. He even struck out 2 guys. Did you take him out just to really build up that confidence for him?
Oh yeah, John went out, had a good outing, something that he's been searching for, and he came off the mound and said, hey, good job tonight. Let's end it there with some confidence. You don't want to send him back out there and let him run into some trouble, have to take him out for the 3rd night in a row in a little bit of trouble. And he's throwing really well. His opposing batting average is really low. I think it's the lowest on the team. He's just struggled to throw strikes because his ball moves so much. It's not necessarily that he's struggling to throw strikes. It's that he's throwing the ball in the zone and it's diving out of the zone. And we worked this week on just basically throwing the ball right down the middle, and I was allowing his movement to create swings and misses. He was trying to nibble a little bit, trying to throw pitches on the outer half of the plate, and because he throws from down under a little bit, his ball moves out of the zone. So after guys see it, they realize, hey, if we don't swing, he's going to walk us because the ball is going to go out of the zone. So now we're just more worried about, almost trying to force contact, but allowing the movement to create swings and misses.
And now moving on to tonight's game, an exhibition against the United States Collegiate National Team. Are you going to coach tonight any differently, try to get in as much guys as possible to try to give the scouts and everybody who will be at that game a better look?
We're going to play the first 5 innings to win. We're going to play the entire game to win, but the first 5 innings to really see where we're at. We obviously have 3 games left this week that count for the standings that we need to win. We need to go out the rest of this week and win the week. We've had a slow start this week. So, depends on where we're at, maybe late in the game as to what happens, but anytime you have a chance to beat a good team, you're gonna try. So we'll make that decision late in the game, and we've got our starter lined up and Braden Bristow, and we're just gonna see how things play out. If we're in a situation where if we feel like we can go after the win, then we will.
All right, well, Justin, thank you for coming in this morning, and good luck tonight against the United States national team. Remember, folks, that game starts at 7:05 with gates opening at 6 o'clock. When we come back, we will have Tre Turner from Hubert Vester Chevrolet right here on Tobs Talk, presented by Thomas & Ferris. And welcome back, folks, to this edition of Tobs Talk. I'm Jake Donnelly, and Tobs Talk is presented by Thomas & Ferris right here on Greenlight Channel 2. With me now on Tobs Talk is Tre Turner, the general manager for Hubert Vester Chevrolet, who is one of the sponsors for tonight's game. And Tre, what is it that you do as a general manager for Hubert Vester Chevrolet?
Day-to-day activities, helping out guests and other team members in the store, and the most important thing, providing a great experience for our guests. That's the biggest thing, and just making sure that goes on. But it's a fun position. Get to meet a lot of new people every day, and keep involved with the community.
Yeah, and speaking of the community, you guys are actually a sponsor with the United States national team, not technically a sponsor with the Tobs here tonight, but you will be in a couple of weeks for the next game with the United States versus Japan on July 7th. But going back to that relationship with the United States national team, what is it that you like most about that partnership?
Well, the great thing about it is it brings the national team here to Wilson, and it draws in a lot of people that might not have known about the Tobs or about Wilson. They bring a great game and a good challenge to the Tobs. And it's just a great partnership. You know, it promotes a great activity, baseball, keeps the youth involved, does a whole host of things.
And you actually have a namesake, or had a namesake, on the United States national team with Tre Turner. And you were telling me a story about how your son was really enjoying that from last year. Do you mind telling the folks at home a little bit about that?
No, it was great. We were sitting at home last year watching one of the home games on TV there, and my youngest son, he was 7 at the time, and he saw Tre Turner come up to bat, and when his name was announced on TV, he just kind of looked back at me, couldn't believe it, and did a double take, and was wondering if I was on TV, and joked with him a little bit about it, but it was a great time. And last year, myself and the kids, we got to meet Tre Turner, which was great, and it kind of brought it full circle. But yeah, it was a great deal, and pretty nice to see him do well.
And working for Hubert Vester Chevrolet, what are some of the promotions outside of baseball that you guys have going on right now during the summer? Because I know summer is one of those big car deal times.
It is. We've got a lot of different things going on with clearance of the lots and stuff, but a lot of things that we do here in the community too throughout the year. I mean, we do the American Heart Association Walk, Relay for Life. One of the greatest things that I think myself as well as the employees as a whole for the group, every year Wilson does a back-to-school backpack event. And so the month of July, for every new and used car that each store sells here in Wilson, and we have 3, we put money aside and we buy backpacks, school supplies, and then the employees get a lot out of it because they put that together for August. And that's been a very rewarding event. And like I said, that's coming up here in July and then rolls into August there for us there. So a lot of good things.
And Hubert Vester Chevrolet doing a great job helping out the community. I'd like to thank you for that. Okay, now my favorite question asking the car guys that come in here, as a general manager, I'm sure you get to drive a lot of cars. That's one of the perks, right, of being a general manager?
It is. It is. It's a good perk.
So what car do you drive right now?
Oh, well, the one that has the most gas.
And what would that be?
The most regular car, I drive a Chevy Silverado.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Z71. The kids, of course, they ask me to drive a Camaro home all the time. Especially my son and daughter, because they grew up with the Transformer movies, and so if I get a yellow Camaro in, they want to see Bumblebee. So it's a fun product. It's a fun business.
So what is your favorite car to drive?
The most fun to drive, it'll definitely be a Camaro, a Z01 to be specific. It's a fun car, high performance car. Just a lot of great things about it. They've done a great job with that car.
A lot of horsepower in that one?
585. Yes.
585?
585 supercharged.
Do you have the 0 to 60, or have you not been able to figure that out for yourself?
I have not been able to figure that out for myself.
Okay, so staying within the rules of the road.
Of course.
Of course. With that 585 horsepower. That sounds like a lot of fun, especially if that was the yellow Bumblebee car, as they like to say.
Yeah, I got to spend about 2 or 3 days in Nevada here back in December at Corvette driving school, and we spent 2 days chasing a Corvette Camaro Z01 in the new Stingray, and unfortunately never caught it, but had a lot of fun trying.
So your job is really quite boring, is what you're trying to tell me.
It's hard. It's hard. It's hard.
It is a hard life. And how long have you been living this hard life for Hubert Vester Chevrolet?
Well, for Hubert Vester Chevrolet, I've been here for 3 years, going on 3 years. Been with the group for 10 years in the management team, and car business 15 years, but wouldn't trade it for anything. It's a great business. The best aspect of it is meeting new people, and over years getting to see their families grow, different things, and see the community grow. It's been great, and this business puts you in that position to be involved in that.
Yeah, and remember, folks, that game tonight is 7:05. Tre, thank you so much for coming in, despite the fact that you are a Chevy guy, and as folks know, I'm a Ford guy. He already apologized to me for having to drive my Ford F-150. But remember, Hubert Vester Chevrolet, home of the Silverado, which is a very nice truck, just not my own choice. But remember, folks, tonight's game, 7:05, against the United States national team, an exhibition game, gates opening at 6 o'clock. Hubert Vester Chevrolet, a sponsor of that United States national team. We have more to go here on Tobs Talk. I'm Jake Donnelly, and Tobs Talk is presented by Thomas & Ferris. And welcome back, everybody, to this edition of Tobs Talk. Tobs Talk is presented by Thomas and Ferris right here on Greenlight Channel 2. I'm Jake Donnelly. Thank you all for tuning in. And with me now is Jonathan Waszak, relief pitcher for the Tobs. And Jonathan stands about 6'7", 256 pounds, and he has been begging to get on Tobs Talk because he's like, look, I'm pitching well. I deserve to get on here. And one of the things I like to do in life is not anger people of Jonathan's stature. So I am very happy that you are here this morning. Thank you for coming in, Jonathan.
You're welcome. I'm happy to be here also.
Yeah, Jonathan has had 7 appearances in a row out of the bullpen without allowing an earned run. Now, at the beginning of the season, you had some control issues, but that's because at Western Carolina, you were throwing from down under. Now, though, you're up top. What are you doing differently that has you so locked in on the mound?
Me and Coach Hay worked on some things in the pen and just widened my base out, and we just tried to work on my control, really, because I was wild and still getting used to it, but now I'm finally comfortable with my arm slot, too, so it's starting to come together. I'm still struggling with my changeup, but it worked better last night, so hopefully it'll continue to get better.
Now, was there any game or a bullpen session where you were just like, okay, this feels right, I've now found it?
That first week when I was on the DL, we had, I want to say it was a Wednesday or so, and we had a good long bullpen, and I really felt comfortable for the first time with that over-the-top arm slot, so I was happy with that.
Does it help when the head coach is also a pitcher so that you really know he's trying his best to help you along? Is that something that you think about, and is that something that gives you a little bit more of a comfort zone?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, he really understands the pitching staff and the pitchers, and it's easier to understand where he's coming from rather than him just throwing some things out there trying to help you.
And Justin's doing a really good job. He's the pitching coach for the team. He's also the head coach. But you are a guy out of Western Carolina, and you've actually played against a couple of guys on the Tobs roster. Did that also help you coming into this summer?
Oh, yeah, it's definitely nice. One, it's in my backyard, so I'm close to home. And two, knowing some guys on the team made me feel more comfortable about coming to Wilson. Unlike last year, I kind of had to meet new guys and get comfortable with everybody. And
you actually, because you're close to home, you're one of the few guys who's actually working this summer with a job in the mornings. And you want to tell us a little bit about that job?
I mean, I'm just working. I'm doing all sorts of things really this summer, but just trying to make a little extra money. That way I can afford the gas to go back and forth from Wilson to home. So
it's about a 30-minute drive from Wendell, North Carolina. And am I saying that right? I know my Yankee accent sometimes messes up some of the names, but it's Wendell?
It's Wendell.
Wendell,
yeah.
Okay. Wendell, North Carolina. Jonathan here goes to Western Carolina. So just a lot of really homegrown talent on this Tobs roster. You, one of the more local guys, and also a guy who out on the mound with that 6'7" stature. We had Michael Belcher in earlier this year, and he's a big guy as well, about 6'5". You make him look fairly tiny. You really do. Do you think that you have an intimidating presence out on the mound because of that stature, and do you think that helps you out at all?
I sure hope so. I mean, being tall and big is kind of helpful. I mean, hopefully I'm hoping to get stronger this summer and throw a little bit harder, but hopefully it helps me out a little bit.
And besides that arm slot, what else are you really trying to work on? That changeup, anything else?
Changeup, slider, just trying to get a feel for my command and just fill up the zone, don't walk people.
Okay, now this is the hardest question that I ask during the interview. So if you get by this, you are home free, okay? What is your favorite baseball memory that you have taken a part in? It could be Little League. We had John Valla talk about a home run he hit when he was 12 years old. What is your favorite baseball memory?
I'd have to say winning back-to-back SoCon championships this year with a great group of guys at Western. I mean, it was awesome. I mean, being my sophomore year, I've won 2 of them, so hopefully we can get a 3rd one next year.
And if you pitch like you are right now this summer and you do that next spring, you're absolutely going to help that team out. And Jonathan, thank you for helping me out this morning here on this edition of Tobs Talk.
You're welcome.
All right, folks, when we come back, we'll wrap up this edition of Tobs Talk presented by Thomas and Ferris right here on Greenlight Channel 2. And welcome back, everybody, to this edition of Tobs Talk. Tobs Talk is presented by Thomas and Ferris right here on Greenlight Channel 2. I'm Jake Donnelly, and I'd like to say thank you to everybody who came in this morning for head coach Justin Hay of the Tobs, as well as general manager from Hubert Vester Chevrolet, Tre Turner, for coming in, as well as, of course, the player on the Tobs, Jonathan Waszak, who came in this morning despite having to drive a half hour from Wendell, North Carolina. But Jonathan did bring his camo Crocs, so thank you, Jonathan, for coming in this morning. A little bit about tonight's game. It's a 7:05 start, an exhibition game with gates opening at 6 o'clock. The Tobs will play host to the USA Collegiate National Team. Some of the best players throughout the nation will be coming to historic Fleming Stadium for tonight's game, an exhibition game with first pitch scheduled for 7:05, gates opening at 6 o'clock. So if you want to see the Tobs play, who do have some of the better players in the nation, make sure you get there. They will be playing host to really the top tier in collegiate baseball tonight. 7:05 start, that's the first pitch, gates opening at 6 o'clock. This has been another edition of Tobs Talk. This is Jake Donnelly saying, folks, thank you for tuning in, and hopefully we'll see you at Fleming.